Okay. It's 7 o'clock and I'd like to call the meeting to order. Renee, I believe you have a script to run through with me.
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, I'll let you lead.
Okay, great. So just bear with me, it's a little long. So prior to roll call, I would like to make clear for the record of this meeting, and it should be reflected in the minutes, that this town council meeting is conducted to pursuant to California Government Code Section 54953B, in that Mayor Haskell is participating from the lodge at Torrey Pines, 11480 North Torrey Pines Road, La Jolla, California, 92037, room 411. Mayor Haskell is participating by Zoom webinar. In accordance with the Brown Act, each teleconference location has been identified in the notice and agenda for this meeting. Also, I know for the record that we have a quorum of council members present in person. I would now like to request Mayor Haskell respond to the following questions and confirm certain matters for the record. Can you hear me okay?
I can.
Great. Were you able to hear the proceedings up until now?
Yes,
You have a copy of the agenda for this meeting.
I do.
Have you posted the agenda at the location where you are?
Yes,
Is your location reasonably accessible to the public such that any member of the public could participate in this teleconference from your location if he or she wished to do so?
yes,
Is there any member of the public there with you?
there is not.
Great. I would now like to ask that any member of the council speak up if such council member has not been able to clearly hear Mayor Haskell. Hearing no comment, the record should reflect that all council members present have indicated that they were able to hear Mayor Haskell clearly. I would now like to advise the council that any votes taken during the teleconference portion of this meeting must be taken by roll call. That's all I have.
Thank you. All right, so the meeting's called to order and maybe have a roll call, please.
Councilmember Flynn,
Present.
sorry, Councilmember Hefty. Present. Councilmember Walter,
Present.
Vice Mayor Taylor,
Present.
Mayor Haskell.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you very much. We do not have any presentations or proclamations at this meeting, so I would ask that the town manager give his report.
Thank you, Mayor Haskell. Just a couple of things. Number one, a reminder that the March 12th, we will have a study session on council priorities, updating the priorities. These are goals and priorities that were established a year ago, basically on March 18th, 2024. And the focus will be on what the council would like me in particular, like me as interim town manager, to focus on for June 30th and for December 30th and any other refinements. But it will be a good opportunity for the public to either watch in or come on by 6 o'clock. The regular council meeting will begin at 7, so we have a 1 hour for that. Secondly, just want to acknowledge the work of Tony and the staff. The council set a direction, and they will see that tonight in the mid-year report, but a direction to have a balanced budget. While this did mean a curtailing of some of the number of staff, and it did result in making things a little trickier for the community, for the public. We are still open, and we also are doing appointments, so the public can make appointments to come and see us during regular business hours. We're open Monday through Thursday, 8:30 to noon, but 8 to 5 appointments can be made. So the work is still getting done, but it is a little bit tighter. But I'm happy to report, and you will see in the mid-year report, that we are following that budget, which was a wise directive from the council. Last, I'm continuing to try to meet with the chairs of our various commissions and committees, and we have more of them coming up next week. I also have a meeting with the superintendent of schools on the 14th of March. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mark. That's very helpful, and I agree with your comments. Next is oral communications, and these are for the public to make comments that on topics not on the agenda or with respect to the town manager report. I'm going to ask Craig to let me know if there are any members of the public in the schoolhouse that are raising their hand for an oral communication.
There are no members of the public in the schoolhouse at all.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, let me know if that changes. Uh, Then I'm looking online and I do not see any hands raised by the public. So,
So Councilmember Flynn wants to have an oral communication.
Yes.
Not sure.
Is that okay?
I assume, Renee, that that's permitted?
Thank you. So
Then,
I just have a very short communication about something that's absolutely not on the agenda. But I was contacted by a resident in town. They forwarded me an email that they'd already sent to 2 members of town council. So in order to avoid any kind of appearance of a Brown Act violation, I have not communicated with either of those council members, but I wanted to make sure the issue was in the public eye for all 5 members of town council. And this relates to the low voltage ERRCS radio antenna problem in town. It turns out that this particular radio frequency is used for internal communication between the fire department and personnel and among themselves, as well as among the police department personnel. And they use it when they're on an incident so that they can communicate with each other outside of the public sphere. So it turns out that our radio frequency or whatever our, how do you put it? Our, it's the frequency is very poor in town. So neither the fire department, even the fire department at their own fire station does not get good coverage from this antenna because the antenna is located up in Belmont, I believe. So the fire department's solution to this has been to ask actual residents who are doing large projects, development projects, to install expensive antennas on their own properties. So I just wanted everybody to be aware of this situation because it's something that I think the town needs to look into. Because I'm not sure who should really be funding this. In my mind, it's the fire department that should be installing these antennas as they have the problem themselves. So I just wanted to have this out in the open so that all 5 council members were aware of this. Thank you.
okay, thank you. All right, we're going to move on to the consent agenda. And I'm going to go around and ask members of the council if they have any items, 5A through F, that they wish to pull apart and discuss separate from the consent agenda. And Craig, I'm going to ask you to be my eyes in the room there.
Okay. Well, I'll start. I'd like to pull 5E.
Okay, Rebecca?
I think I'd like to pull 5A.
Okay. Helen, do you have anything?
I do. I need to pull the council. I don't know what number it is though. So come back to me. I'm sorry.
Okay, Mary? Mary, do you have anything?
Well, I was gonna pull C. I hope that's not gonna.
Mary, I don't know if you're speaking into the mic or if the mic is on.
So,
I was gonna pull C.
Okay. And Helen, have you located the items and do you know?
It's on my subcommittee. It's on the subcommittee. So it's item 8, actually, it looks like actually. So I will
E,
wait.
the Shady Trail?
No, on
renovation?
Eight, sorry. So I'm not pulling anything on consent.
Oh, okay, thank you. So I hear that we're pulling 5A, 5C, and 5E. So that leaves 5B, D, and F for consent. So at this point,
Craig?
on those
Wait, no,
items,
B. Sorry. never
sorry,
mind, I missed-
But you're okay, keep going.
okay, so for items 5B, D, and F, do we have any public comment on those items? I have a hand up from Rita Gomez. Rita, go ahead.
Nobody in the building.
Thank you.
Hi, thank you for taking my comment. I just have a question on item D. It looks like it would get us money, but it's not clear how much money we would then have to pay to compensate and how much money we've paid in the past. So it's really, if it can get pulled just for some clarification instead of just a check mark. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And then we have one additional hand up, 7562 is the number.
Good evening, Caroline Vertongen. I have questions, or I have clarifying questions, just like Rita for item number D and B. Once again, I'm asking for the warrant list. Mr. Krupka, the consultant, is getting, again, money for traffic planning. And like I state every time, he's on the warrant list. EPTS or the public has not seen any results or any data that confirms what kind of traffic planning he's doing.
Okay,
I believe we're over $160,000. So thank you.
okay, thank you. I see no other hands up at this point. Does any member of the council want to pull any of the B, D, and F? Having heard the public comments.
Well, I'd be interested in pulling D just for, is that the right one? Yes, just to hear the numbers. if that's
Okay.
possible. But just for information.
Okay. So in that case, we're going to need a motion to approve items B and F.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Flynn,
Aye.
Councilmember Husty,
Aye.
Councilmember Walter. Aye. Vice Mayor Taylor,
Aye.
Mayor Haskell.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay, thank you. All right, item 5A, the minutes. Rebecca, was that you?
Yes.
Okay,
Under B, let's see, 6B, consideration of authorizing the interim town manager to execute a contract with Baker Tilly. I'd like it to read in the third paragraph. It says council discussion ensued, period, and then Councilmember Flynn recommended retaining Wendy, da, da, da. I would rather that said, Councilmember Flynn completed the presentation with the recommendation and then the rest of it. And then after that, I wanted to say council discussion ensued. And then,
any,
and then the other very, very minor thing was that Robert Young's name is spelled with an E at the end. And then we've discussed a little bit about this, but the public comments, I would love to have just a little few words after each person's name about what they're talking about, but I know that's been discussed in the past. So that's it.
okay,
And one thing we have said is if people send written comments in, they go into the record.
Right,
rather
yes,
than
that
doing
would
it as
be
a- as an
much
oral.
better, yes.
Yeah, so I think that we're trying to encourage people to send in written
Okay,
comments.
that's much better solution. Thank you.
I actually
Okay.
have one.
So,
So Helen
Helen.
has something?
okay,
On section 8, paragraph 1, 2, 3, it says Councilmember Walter reported on emergency preparedness, school district and San Mateo County Transportation Authority. Grant. There was a grant. I did not attend that meeting. So I'd like that corrected. Thank you.
so Helen, you want to put the word grant in after,
Following the Transportation Authority.
Okay,
Thank you.
And
All
while we're
right.
on it, can we take the extra L out of Betsy Morgenthaler's name?
Okay. All right, any other modifications to the minutes? I'm not hearing any. Are there any public comments on the 5A? I'm not seeing any hands online. I assume there's still none in the room.
None in the room.
Okay, so can we have a motion to approve item 5A with the stated edits?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Flynn,
Aye.
Councilmember Husty,
Aye.
Councilmember Walter,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Taylor,
Aye.
Mayor Haskell.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Great. Thank you. Our next item is to pull 5C. So this is about the joint powers agreement with the San Mateo Operational Area Emergency Services Council. So remind me who wanted this
I-
pulled and,
I pulled it.
okay?
And I've been fussing about it because I am the liaison for this agency, and so I'm getting up to speed. And I was wondering how much it cost us, and I got some information from the staff. I was asking the question of how could it possibly be considered no fiscal impact, and we got some dollars and cents about it. Apparently, it's already been paid. But thought it would be helpful, and God knows we have to get it done. We hope to get it done tonight. So I'm not trying to stand in your way. I just want to know how it's accounted for in the accounting, and what bucket it comes out of, and when, and who oversees it, and how much it costs.
And so, Mayor, think I can speak a little bit to this. So there's a JPA, which is what the Emergency Services Council is. Yes, thank you. Joint Powers Authority. And so that's basically, and we agreed a long time ago to fund that. Like, we're just part of that JPA. So that's what the funding is.
When was a long time ago?
As long as I know, I mean, probably when they formed the JPA. I mean, all the cities
It was
are,
a while ago.
yeah,
Like 10 years.
like 1960 something,
Oh, long.
long time ago.
Okay. And now this is a new thing, right?
No, so this is basically there, and we've got the director here as well, so she can speak to it. But this is basically just restating and sort of cleaning up some of the legal language. So the reason I think there's no fiscal impact is it's not changing what we owe. Right. In other words, we haven't made any additional.
Changing, but it is an expense.
Right, but a fiscal impact is passing this particular thing going to cost us more money? And the
Mhm.
answer is no, it will not cost us more money. So I think that's
I
the
see.
answer to that
Thank
piece of
you.
it.
Thank
Um,
you.
So Judith, the director is online. I don't know if you can see her or not.
I can. Is that
Right.
Dr. Zapodkar?
Yes, thank you, members of the council. I really appreciate having the opportunity to share. Vice Mayor, I think you're spot on. This was a joint powers agreement that has been existent in San Mateo County since the 1960s. And basically, there's a lot of things that get provided to a city that normally the city could not afford to do themselves, like alert and warning platform. For example, you all get the opportunity to have an alert and warning platform. If you had to go buy it, it would be, anywhere from 50,000 or more dollars. So that's just one example. The other example is hazmat contract. That is the biggest amount that we pay for hazardous material. That is something that we see. So we see the hazardous material contract, and if there is a hazardous material response, then that comes along. You get those services, and those services are provided by San Mateo Consolidated. So a lot of emergency preparedness response recovery type services are included in that component, and they're also outlined more cross-jurisdictional stuff. So it doesn't make sense for one jurisdiction to buy it versus all doing it together. and the fiscal impact is, as the vice mayor mentioned, it's an ongoing thing that has been in existence. It's based out of population and tax roll data. And every year the budget gets looked at by the ESC and the ESC approves the budget.
Okay. Thank you very much. Does
I ask a
anyone
question?
else
Yes.
have? Yes, I was just about to go around and see if council members had questions. So go ahead. I think that was Rebecca first.
Yes, yes. I just had a quick question on how often the amount that each municipality pays gets updated. Is that just once every 10 years with the census, or does it change
It's every year. It's every year, and
Oh, okay.
and the language was actually put in this update to actually update every, I think, 2 to 3 years. As soon as we get the census results, like updating very regularly versus before there was not really an update into it. So this updates. The second revision actually makes a lot of updates of how the ESC currently works. And it also is the transition from OES, Office of Emergency Service, that used to exist, that no longer exists, to Department of Emergency Management.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Mary, do you have questions?
Oh, yeah, my question was, what does a warning platform look like?
Yeah, so
SMC alert.
What does that look like?
You've seen it. You get SMC alerts, the thing that tells you
Oh,
about mountain
okay.
lions and that kind of stuff.
All right.
That's an example.
it's
a-
also
It's
it's
a web
also
platform. It
Wait,
doesn't drive in when
wait.
we have an emergency. Yeah, I was
Okay,
trying to get it.
Dr. Dapakar, please go ahead.
apologies. So did you all get the tsunami alert from the National Weather
Yes.
Service? That is the platform. Yes.
Thank you.
So for life safety type stuff, we need to have a platform, and so many different agencies go through that platform. And you can get
Okay.
non-emergency alerts as well, like mountain lions.
Okay, thank you. Mary, anything else? No?
I am curious. Obviously, we've got my colleague is part of the Emergency Service Council. But I did talk to our emergency preparedness chair of our committee, and he was not familiar with the JPA, and he's been chair for a few years now. So I am curious if we could ever, I know on the sustainability committees, for instance, at the county level, they often will send people from their sustainability committees. Could we potentially send like an emergency preparedness chair, like, to work with the county at times?
Absolutely.
JPA.
Absolutely. And I just also want to basically point out that the Portola Valley Emergency Operation Plan, which was adopted on 1/11/17, actually talks about the JPA specifically, and the San Mateo County joint powers of agreement. So it is written also within your documents as well. It is a little old, from 2017, but it is there. And then the other part of it is that says that town of Portola Valley EOP relies on emergency functions, such as, and it goes through a list of emergency functions on San Mateo County OES. OES does not exist anymore. It is Department of Emergency Management, including hazardous material. And that is page 10 of that document, and page 11 and 12 of that document.
Okay, so
Thank
we
you.
can circle back on that. Craig, do you have any questions?
I do not.
Okay,
I have one more. And I
Well,
hope this,
okay,
too
go ahead,
late?
Mary. No, you're good.
The subject of AI, there was a talk about, I think in this document, about evacuation, artificial intelligence plan. And we had just gone through this with the budgeting recently. And I was wondering if that was a duplication or whether that replaced what we voted down last, 2 weeks ago.
I'm sorry, Mary, I'm not recalling that particular
It's the
conversation.
Ladris. It's the Ladris
Oh.
contract, and it is a duplication from what partial duplication. So we're still getting, the staff is getting more information about that.
Yeah, so okay, so there is a duplication. We were paying it ourselves and it was available. Like,
Well,
I
Our,
understand.
our contract is for fire and evacuation, and the JPA has a contract with Ladris for evacuation planning that they are going to be extending to all the municipalities to create the evacuation plan. So we also have the fire modeling. So it's unclear at this point how much overlap there is in terms of the money, but the staff is aware of this and they're looking into it.
Okay,
I-
it
I-
looks
I
like
would,
Dr. Dapikar has some further comment on that.
There is currently no implication to the JPA from a fiscal standpoint on that. It is just something that the county is doing on, it's not a shared cost or anything like that. So it's not like you're paying for it out of the JPA and you're paying for it out of your town. And our portion is going to be for a very limited time, just for the evacuation planning portion of it.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay,
That helped a lot.
all right. All right, any comments
it's-
from the public at this point? I'm not seeing any hands raised.
No, no
Uh,
hands in the schoolhouse.
Do they-
Okay, and therefore,
Stop.
yes, Mary?
The staff
Mary, what do
is
you have?
standing, I think the staff was standing by to make comment. Did you have anything? Okay,
No, just here to answer any other questions.
thanks.
Okay. So we need to make a motion to approve the Joint Powers Authority Agreement.
So moved.
I'll second it.
Excuse me, Madam Mayor, there is a speaker trying
Oh.
to.
Oh, that just
Why?
came on. Thank you. 7562, go ahead.
Great, thank you very much. How much is the amount for this contract annually?
Okay, all right, so I know that we've got some financial expertise, and if there is an easy online tonight, and if there is an easy answer at hand without doing any deep dives, is there a ballpark figure, or is that a more complicated answer that we should get back to offline?
I can answer that question. The amount was 17,000, a little bit over 17,023 dollars. And that is, the cost is tied to our assessed value and population. So it'll go up incrementally each year as our assessed valuation goes up.
So that was last year, Tony?
This was for 24-25. So this
Thank
was
you.
this current fiscal year.
Okay. All right. Unless there's any further discussion, I'd like, there's been a motion made and seconded
And I
it.
second.
So thank you. And could we have a roll call vote?
Councilmember Flynn. Councilmember Hefty.
Aye.
Councilmember Walter. Aye. Vice Mayor Taylor.
Aye.
Mayor Haskell.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you. All right, now we have for explanation, item 5D. Sorry, E. We're
No, no.
going on to E.
I
Oh,
think
yeah, no, it was
D
D.
got called. Yeah, D got called. as
Yes,
well.
D did get called. So the person that called it, please explain the question.
The question was how much we're getting, and how much it's costing us. What we're hoping for from this resolution.
For the A and W? Meant for
A and
A and
W.
W? Okay, who can answer that out of staff? Can anyone
Tony,
give an answer?
Tony is raising his hand.
Go
Let me
ahead,
see.
Tony, please.
So for year to date with Measure A, we've received almost $174,000. And for Measure W, we've received a little bit over 16,000, but we've spent 81,623. This is sales tax money, and we receive an allotment every month. This agreement is just to make sure that we are still eligible to receive Measure A and Measure W funding. And it's for streets, roads, infrastructure.
Okay.
Right.
Thank you, Tony. Does anyone on the council have any questions?
I do. Tony, do you anticipate, for the Measure W? You said we get it every month, so do you anticipate more, expenses to go to that measure this year?
If it was, or if it were, it was going to be to our annual resurfacing program, but that's being deferred. Not for the remaining fiscal year.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Mary, any question?
Nope, thank you.
All right, Helen, do you have questions?
No, thank you.
All right, Craig, you okay?
No questions.
All right, going to the public comments, I am not seeing any hands raised. I'll give it a couple seconds. And not seeing any raised, I'll bring it back for a motion, please.
So moved.
Second,
Okay, roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Hefty, excuse me, Councilmember Flynn,
Aye.
Councilmember Hefty,
aye.
Councilmember Walter,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Taylor,
Aye.
Mayor Haskell.
Aye.
Motion carries.
All right. And I believe the last one is 5E. This is the Shady Trail renovation project. So who was the council member that pulled this?
I did.
Okay,
So,
what's the question?
well, it's, yes, some questions and some comments. So let me start by thanking the donors because this is a very generous donation. I think it's a worthy project. Shady Trail definitely needs some love. The reason I pulled it was, the staff memo ends with the staff intends to use this to document sort of future process. So I just wanted to make sure that we were clear on the sort of future process that we're sort of backing our way into. So I just had a couple of quick comments on that. One of them is how the process works. And I talked to Tony prior to this. So just so it's clear for donors, when we take in donations, they go into one of our existing funds. In this case, it's going to go into the Trail Maintenance Fund. And then we, the council, have approved a project, in this case, the Shady Trail Restoration Project. And then the money will be applied against that project for budgeting purposes. What I want to make sure is that we understand if there's money left over, what we're going to do with it. So in this case, I think what we need for the future and for the, in the packet, there's a form, is I would suggest that we put a date by which this funds will be spent. Otherwise, they revert to the underlying fund. So in this case, I don't think it's an issue because it's somewhere between 14 and 16, and there's additional work on Shady Trail. And I think the donor's intent and our engineer's intent was once we get the guys out there with their machines, they're going to just keep working until they spend $20,000. So I'm good with that. What I'm trying to make sure we avoid is that we don't end up with a bunch of specialty funds that hang around for 2 years or 3 years where there's $100 left or $1,000 left. And somebody comes back and says, oh, well, I want to spend this now. Like, I think we need to make sure that we put fixed targets around these things. So again, I think for this project, very worthy. And I don't think it's going to be an issue, but since we were talking about it as a template for the future, I just wanted to suggest that we add a date to spend. So I would expect like Shady Trail, if it were spent by the end of this fiscal year, that seems reasonable because they'll get to it well before that.
Craig, I just want to confirm, you're not asking for that for this. You would be okay approving it as it is. Is that correct?
I think so. I mean, I guess I want to be clear. My expectation is that it would get done by the fiscal year, but I don't think I'm requiring council action on
Okay.
that. And I also,
Okay.
when I talked to the donors today, I mean, that's their expectation as well. So I think in this particular case, I think it's all good. So,
Yeah.
and I mean, I hope to see more projects like this. I mean, again, this is extremely generous of the donors. So I want to thank the donors and I hope we have more opportunities like this. And I appreciate Tony's just trying to make sure that we have a clear process, because the last thing we want to do is have mismatched expectations and then have the donors be angry because they were expecting one thing and the council was expecting something else.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
that was the main thing. But other than that, no, I think it's a very worthy project. Thank you.
Okay,
Mm.
since we're kind of combining questions and comments, I'm gonna go with Helen first, if she has any observations, questions.
Again, thank you to the donors. Very appreciative to keep our trail system going. Thank you. I just wanted to comment that maintenance and operations is always challenging. And this small footnote at the bottom, I would like to see in the future that it be larger and not at the bottom and in 10-point font. So because maintenance and operation needs to be clear. It's always easier to get projects paid for than maintenance and operations. So I think that needs to be more clear. That's my only comment. Thank you.
Helen, would you want to change this for this particular grant, or
No,
are you noting
I'm
that?
fine.
Okay,
I am fine with it just for future.
okay.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. Rebecca, do you have any questions,
Yes,
comments?
just to reiterate the thanks to the donors.
Okay, and Mary?
Well, I'd like to say the initiative, getting the thing done was wonderful, getting the impetus and getting the creativity out. And I think the engineer needs to be recognized as having made a good contribution as well. So I was just thinking that maybe the way to get around Craig's concern would be to ask the donor when they go to fill in to say when the date of that they expect it to be completed is. Whether that would be a way of doing it.
That's exactly what I was suggesting, that we modify the donation acceptance form to add
Yeah,
a
but
completion
right
date.
now, we could just ask them to please say when they expect to finish and what their expectation is.
Yeah, and I think for this project, I'm comfortable that we'll be finished in a time frame. I'm comfortable with it. I don't think we need to ask that question. I don't want to hold this up.
Yeah, well, I'm not holding it up, but if they're writing it in, they could just write it in. It would make them feel, it would make them realize that we were thinking about it and we want to perform. That's all. Okay.
So Mary,
thank you.
just to be clear, are you suggesting a change to
No.
Okay, thank you.
Just
I had a couple,
in the process of getting the form filled out, they
Yeah.
could be informed to get that piece of information out to us.
yeah, and my comments would be, we are going to have a policy that we're going to implement, and we can, I think that's contemplating a time frame as well. But I would support the future forms, setting that expectation. I would not change anything right now. I would thank the donors. It's extremely generous and community minded, and we truly appreciate that. And then I just have a question. The actual paperwork with the contractor, I saw that there were 4 options for the finish. One was to use the on-site wood, and I think that was what was decided on, but in the actual documentation, I did not see that reflected. So if someone on staff could just confirm that that's where they ended up, and the expectation that the contractor would do that, take that approach, that would be great.
We will do that.
Hey, great. Can I have a motion to approve item 5E?
So moved.
I second it.
Okay, roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Flynn,
Aye.
Councilmember Hefty,
Aye.
Councilmember Walter,
Hi.
Vice Mayor Taylor,
Aye.
Mayor Haskell.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay. Thank you very much. We're through the consent agenda. So we'll move on to the regular agenda. And the first item here is a presentation receipt of the mid-year budget update. And I assume Tony will take it from here with a report.
Yes, I will. I don't seem to be logged in at the moment.
So while Tony's doing this logged in, can I jump outside for a minute? I'll be back in like 2 minutes.
Sure.
Can you see the slide on the screen?
I can. And just so I know, are there still no members of the public present in the schoolhouse?
There is one person in the schoolhouse.
Okay. Thank you. Renee, what's the protocol? Can Tony get started?
Yeah, I think Vice Mayor's back.
Oh, super. Okay, Tony.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of council. Tonight, I'm giving an update, the mid-year budget update, council and residents. For the purpose of the mid-year update is an opportunity to review the performance of all funds, make any necessary adjustments, help shape development of next year's budgets. It's essential to maintain fiscal stability and also increases budget transparency. Starting off, I thought I would give an update to the council as our cash in bank. This is the amount that we've had that we are holding in our several institutions. Tech CU is our checking account. Bank of America is our, for all intents and purposes, is our payroll account, but it's also our conduit bank if we want to withdraw money from LAIF. Tech CU does not have a contract with LAIF. LAIF only contracts with large banks. So that's why we have the two banks. And then we also have Schwab. So our total cash in bank is 22 million, of which 19.3 million of it is invested in LAIF and Schwab. And also, if you look at the chart on the right, it kind of breaks down the balance, the cash balance in each fund. So the general fund has a little bit over $2 million. The restricted funds have 19.3, of which 13.9 million of it is held in open space and inclusionary funds. Measure A funds, we have 1.25 million. Measure W, we have almost $750,000 in cash. And then if you look at capital projects, we have over 800,000. And in applicant deposits, we have 1.2 million. So we have 19.3 million in restricted funds. And then the fiduciary funds, these are the road maintenance districts. We have a little bit over 700,000. So combined, we have over $22 million invested in or sitting in our various banks. And also wanted to add interest earnings for the first 6 months total over 500,000, basically from Schwab and LAIF. This report is going to primarily focus on the general fund because that is our general operating fund. As the city manager or town manager said earlier, We are following council direction from November. We do have a balanced budget, a slight deficit of $8,600. But in my mind, that's a balanced budget. Revenues and expenses are still in line with projection. Consulting costs are still going to be a concern, specifically with the number of staffing vacancies that we have. I'm going to be recommending no changes to the budget that was adopted in November. But looking at the chart, there are three distinct columns. One is the actuals column of revenues and expenses. We have 3.84 million in revenue to the general fund, 3.85 million in expenses. So that comes up with the 8,564 deficit. Looking at the budget column, again, as you can see, it's balanced. And the difference column is what's remaining. So we have 3.64 million remaining in revenue appropriations and 3.5 million in expense appropriations. And since we're deferring now the road maintenance or the annual resurfacing project, the 134,000 will probably not occur in this fiscal year. So that frees up additional funding should we have some overages in some of the line items. So this is looking at the general fund by category, revenue by category. Revenues are 51.34% of the annual budget. Tax revenues are anticipated to hit targets. And licenses and permits are a concern, but are anticipated to pick up in the second half. If you recall, the beginning of the fiscal year, in August, we had a serious backlog in processing permits due to staffing shortages and filling vacant positions. But looking at all the categories, charges for services is probably the one of concern. That's the one with licenses and permits, and also inspection fees are coming out of charges for service. But as I stated earlier, that activity is expected to pick up in the second half as the backlog of permits being issued is being reduced. And also with longer days and drier days, the construction activity should pick up as well. On the expense side, expenses are 51.46% of the annual budget. Salaries are a little bit high because we had some one-time payments for employee separations in the first half. But the staff vacancies will reduce some of those one-time costs as we move into the second half of the fiscal year. And again, as stated, the use of consultants continues to be a concern, specifically with the staffing vacancies in planning and building. So looking at revenues and expenses and how it impacts the fund balance. In November, we restated our beginning fund balance in the general fund of 1.9 million, taking into the deficit for the first 6 months. We're looking at an ending balance of 1.89 million. The restricted fund started with a $16.8 million fund balance that's now at 17.6 million. And then the fiduciary funds have had a slight reduction based on some activity in Woodside Island. So overall, our fund balances have increased by 730,000. We're closing the fund balance, or the ending fund balance of December 31st is a little bit over $20 million. So looking ahead to the fiscal year 25-26 budget. Starting with council goals and priorities, which will be next month. The three goals and priorities to focus on most will be fiscal responsibility and long-term viability. That's of most concern to me. Safety and responsible land use. But included in these conversations is what's going to be driving the budget development. So whatever council goals and priorities are established in March will then kick off how the budget is going to be developed for next fiscal year. But identifying some issues that will probably need to be addressed is, again, the staffing levels and the use of consultants, staff development, recruitment and retention challenges. Our capital improvement plan, although we deferred capital improvements for the balanced budget, we do have to identify and prioritize projects for the future, specifically with our infrastructure maintenance, storm drains and roads. Also, part of the process of the council goals and priorities for 24-25 was to educate the town on town finances. So part of this budget development process will be an overview of all our revenues, where they're coming from, what's their categories, what makes up sales tax, what makes up property tax. Also our salaries and benefits, and then retirement and OPEB liabilities, where those numbers are coming from. I think that it's a valid goal from the last council goals and priorities section to educate the town on the town's finances, and I'm really looking forward to having those conversations with council and with the public in regards to these items. And then one topic but in the budget policies is our fund balance reserve. The finance committee has done did have a working group on this, and was eager to have a conversation about what our fund balance reserve policy should be, or what the reserve level should be. The current policy is at 60%. We're looking at our $1.9 million fund balance right now. We are not compliant with our fund balance reserve policy. So that's a conversation that we need to have. And then that's also going to piggyback what direction we need to go. Are we going to continue to have balanced budgets moving forward, or do we want to build reserves? And if we're going to build reserves, are we going to have to discuss revenue enhancement or other ways to provide the services at a lower cost? So these are just some of the ideas that have been percolating in my head that I think are relevant to the budget development conversation for 25-26, but not married to this list. I'm sure council members have some of their own ideas that pretty much open to discussion. I just wanted to itemize these for this report. And that concludes my report on the budget report, the mid-year budget update. So I yield back to council for questions and comments.
All right, so we're going to do a round of questions first, then we'll take public comment, and then we can have a more in-depth discussion. So starting us off on the question part, let's see, Helen, would you like to go first?
I did email a lot of my smaller questions to Tony. Thank you. Just to get some more background as I'm still getting up to speed. You have in your report that building revenues are at 30% of the annual budget based on permitting situations. I did see that we have a senior permit technician in-house now. And you seem to think that we'll catch up on some level, right? Or we might be behind.
I'm anticipating it will catch up, but again, I'll be monitoring these. Now that we're current with our financial posting, I can respond a lot more quicker now. Should I see anything develop over the next? I mean, we've posted everything for January, and we're posting everything for February. So, like I said, I should be able to have more timely response on any items that seem to be off kilter.
Can I also ask about the business license tax, which also seems very low?
Yeah, we start receiving renewals in May. That's when we receive the bulk of our business license revenue.
Got it.
This is just licenses that have been issued since July.
Okay.
And also on business licenses, next year, we will enforce the 10% late fee. So if you don't renew by the end of July.
Right.
We
We love those enforcement fees. Sorry, not really. I'm being, I hate enforcement on some level, not always. Yeah. I prefer carrots. Can I talk about the tea allocation of 7%?
Yes.
Obviously, that's been a long time and contentious issue.
Yeah.
Ongoing analysis with the county then, or where are we like where, yeah, the T is such a funky allocation.
Right, and we still have not received how the county does their T allocation. What I am doing is I am going through each remittance advice that we get from the county. All the different categories that they have. I'm keeping a running spreadsheet. And I'm gonna see if I can calculate the 7%. And if I don't, then I go to the county and say, here's everything you gave me. It doesn't add up to 7%. With it. So that's my goal.
Great. Let me make sure I've got all of the park and lieu fees.
Yes.
Obviously those are regulated under the Quimby Act. And you have Nexus, et cetera, and I'm assuming that it's included on our master fee schedule.
I am not sure whether those fees are still valid, because we haven't collected those in a while. But yes, the fee study that we're doing currently, may re-implement it. I'm not sure as to why the fees are not being collected, but if they were being collected, it would be a Nexus and the developer or applicant would be paying.
Right. Okay, great. That's my questions. Thanks.
Thanks, Helen. Craig, do you want to go next?
As liaison to the finance committee, I've already sort of had an opportunity to pre-flight this with Tony, so I'm good. Thank you.
Okay, Mary?
I think I'm okay at the moment.
Okay. And Rebecca, do you have questions?
No, I was lucky enough to take up an enormous amount of Finance Director McFarland's time on Friday, so he did answer all of my questions, and I'm very grateful.
Okay, great.
Okay, I'll try for one question, which
Okay.
is basically you're not asking for a change in the GAN. I really not clear to me what's happening with the GAN.
That's the next item.
That's the next
Oh,
item.
okay.
Yeah.
Good. We don't have to do that until the next. item.
Okay.
Thank you.
Do you have any questions? Okay. So I haven't been in town, so I haven't had the chance to ask my questions. And some of this, just bear with me. In terms of capital improvements, things like storm drains and the like, I know that that's going to be a discussion of priorities, et cetera. But is there anything that we know of that's getting urgent that we need to be prioritizing? Like anything pop to mind that's really going to require us to make choices earlier rather than later? Or what is the process for us getting to understand that?
We did have a culvert fail a few months ago. And also this is just anecdotal conversations that I've had with the town engineer that I'm not sure exactly when the last assessment was done of the storm drains. That
Okay.
actually went in and inspected and but I know it's something that's due. And that is a primary responsibility. If the culvert fails, then we lose a road.
Okay. All right. Thank you. And no other.
So Gina, can I
Categories.
just follow up on that? I had just been assuming that, Tony, you're going to bring to our priority sessions if there are sort of critical things that we need to consider.
Absolutely. I'm having conversations with the town engineer, not just with storm drains, but there's other,
Right.
he's going to be identifying other areas that could be liability.
Right.
That
That'd be perfect.
Yeah.
probably need to be addressed.
Yeah, but understanding a recent instance is helpful, so I appreciate that. In terms of reliance on consultants, there's also got to be a process for understanding the different consultants and what they're doing. So is that going to also be a subject of a future drill down in more detail?
Yes.
Okay. And I should know this, but the sheriff's contract payment, if you could remind me of the timing, and what's remaining for this fiscal year and when it will be paid?
So the sheriff bills us at the beginning of each 6-month period. When we had our conversation with the sheriff a few months ago, we were able to ask them and they did agree to let us pay in December and
Okay.
June. So this is after we receive our large property tax payments, and that was just for a cash flow request, and they were amenable to that request. So yeah, our next payment will be due in June.
Okay. Good, thank you. Those were my questions. All right, next we'll
I
go
have one
to,
more, sorry, I have one more question that I realized I didn't ask, which is, where would I find the cost for the emergency services? What column would I find that in?
That would be under services.
Under services. that
Yes,
sounds weird.
but if you look at the general fund expense by department detail, it is non-departmental 610 and the account is 62206. And you'll see the 17,023 actual. So this is, yeah, the general fund expense by department.
It's 10, it's 610. Thank you. Big number.
okay,
I actually do have another question,
okay,
if
Go
that's
ahead.
okay, Mayor.
yes,
Awesome.
please.
Thank you. ERAF and vehicle license fees. Obviously, sometimes those incomes are tenuous. If we were to lose that, when will we know if we do not get that this year?
Well, VLF is constitutionally protected.
Okay,
So if they want to take it for budget stabilization for the state, they're required to repay it within 3 years with interest. But yeah, that'll be part of the budget process. ERAF will know by April, once the schools do all their local agency funding report. So yeah, we'll know in approximately April.
thank you.
Okay, any other questions before we go to public comment? Okay, I'm not hearing any. Is there anyone in the schoolhouse with their hand up?
No, there is not.
Okay, online we have Betsy M.
Thank you, Mayor Haskell, and thank you, Tony, for such an excellent presentation. You're really working through an inherited collection of numbers and bringing them forward tonight. It's the first mid-year look that I've had. So thank you for that. Whether or not you have an answer tonight, I was interested in the pair of open space fund balances I noted. That's 20, they were both 2024, 25 numbers on your first and seventh slide. They were off by about $250,000. The first one was 9,050,000 and the second one was 8,008 something. Perhaps you would know why they were different, but if not, would you be able to offline get back to me? Because it's of interest to the committee and I'm sure to you too.
I do have
Thank
an
you,
answer.
Betsy.
Thank you.
So this slide 7 was the fund balance. The other slide was the cash balance. So if you look at okay, I'm going to go accounting 101, sorry. So there are assets, liabilities, and fund balance. Assets equals liabilities plus fund balance. So the difference between the cash balance and the fund balance is your other assets other than cash, so your accounts receivable. And then on your liability side, it's accounts payable, deferred revenue. So that's the difference between cash and fund balance. Fund
Thank you so
balance. So fund balance is what we use for budgeting purposes. Cash balance is what we do to actually pay. But yeah, but very rarely will cash and fund balance equal.
Okay. Thank you very much. And looking online, I still see no other hands raised. So we can bring this back to the council for discussion. We'll go in the opposite order. Rebecca, do you want to start off with any comments, discussion points?
Yes. I wanted to thank Finance Director McFarland for the new information he's providing in his staff report as well as in the warrant report with all the new checks by fund report is excellent. Thank you so much for adding that. I wanted to say that I'm very comfortable with these new finances and all the information that we're being provided. And I'm thrilled that we are still on target and have essentially a balanced budget, and looks like we will have a balanced budget by the end of the fiscal year. I feel very comfortable that we will be able to manage the next 2 years as well with the team we have in place. And then finally, just a comment for the public. Carolyn Vertonghen has asked multiple times about the Krupke billing, and I just wanted to let her know that that is for Krupke is acting as the project manager consultant for the flashing cross lights project that's going to be implemented. It's going to be built in the next month or two. So that's why they're billing us. They're not doing studies. They're actually the project manager for that project. That was a project that BPTS actually asked for. So the town is accomplishing that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mary, how about you? Comments, discussion?
It's wonderful. Thank you.
Okay,
So much more relaxing.
all right. Craig?
So ditto on Tony doing a great job. Thank you. So I think my only comment is as we go into the priorities is the thing I'd mentioned earlier is, help us understand the cost of consultants versus the cost of staff, what kind of capital projects we have that we're deferring and, which ones can we really afford to defer and for how long versus which ones do we need to start thinking about seriously. Because I mean, my concern is I totally appreciate the work you've done to get us to a balanced budget because that's what we asked you to do. But we've done that on the back of reduced staff and reduced office hours and reduced services to the public. So I don't see this as, at least in my mind, this is not the long-term vision I have for the town. But I think you're doing exactly the right thing as the finance director to make sure we stay within the monies we have now. So thank you for that. And as we have the discussions around the priorities, I think it'll help us sort of flesh out what we're going to do with next year's budget. And we're going to have to make some decisions. Are we going to keep it exactly balanced? Are we going to allow ourselves to dip into it somewhat for critical projects? So that's the discussion I'm hoping to have when we talk priorities. Thank you.
Thank you. Ellen, comments?
So echoing what my colleagues have said, thank you to you and your team, right? And the entire staff, what you guys are doing on a shoestring, thank you. Right, keeping the lights on, helping make sure everyone gets what they need here. A couple of concerns. I'm concerned that we're pushing out our pavement repairs. We're at a C rating as it was. So below a C, I think once it goes down to D, we lose some flexibility with Measure W funds. I'm not sure about A. So I don't love that. Obviously our infrastructure, we need to make sure that we don't have liabilities. So I appreciate that you're going to bring that up. The park and lieu fees, I think that's an area that we could, I'm pleased to hear that you guys are looking at that in the master fee schedule. Because I'm wondering if we could switch some of the funding from the utility tax and use park and lieu fees if we particularly on single family housing per square foot, if you put that assessment in. I know Mountain View for single family homes was getting about $15,000 per house for park and lieu fees. So for anything over 50% for new construction and remodels over 50%, that could add up, right? If you look at that per square foot basis. and it's switch at, and there is some flexibility in the utility tax to switch it out of the open space is my understanding. It's not enormous. It's not all of it. But my understanding is 1 or 2%. I think you can switch out of the open space. No?
We can't. That's the voters set the 2% at open space. It would require a vote to reallocate it.
Okay. I thought there was more flexibility in that. Okay. Well, so much for that idea. But potentially using some parking lot fees for maintenance costs instead because that's allowed under the Quimby Act. So otherwise, thank you for everything.
All right. Yeah, I have to commend the staff working together, Tony in particular, on their vital work to get us to this point. We're working, as someone said, on a shoestring here, and you're generating enormously valuable work, and you're committing to further educate and disclose to the public around our financial situation, and that's going to be vital because from my perspective, we're at a moment. We had a balanced budget. We're on course for that, which I think we should all be thankful and grateful for, but also proud of that we're taking this moment and saying, let's make this, make our judgments carefully and get information. So this is a critical piece of our ability to execute on that. We are going to have to come up over the next year or so with a new framework for what we're trying to do, what revenue enhancements we can consider, what cost efficiencies, but that's not what we're doing tonight. Tonight, we're getting the report and it's comforting. Just to reiterate a couple of the areas where I do want future work, but not expecting anything further tonight. Capital improvements, prioritizing those would be very helpful, and getting the information to inform that may be tricky. So we'll need to think about the efforts necessary for that. The visibility into the consultants and making sure that we're using them wisely and well will be very, very important going forward. But thanks to you all. This is so much more information, and it's useful information, allowing us to have the visibility that I think we are going to need for some hard choices going forward. So that's all I have. Is truly grateful for your work. All right, Renee, I don't think we have any formal closure here. We were receiving the report, right?
That is correct.
Okay. Now a hand has gone up here. So I'm going to allow a comment to be made. I'm not sure that the window should be reopened, but one quick comment from 7562.
Thank you, Mayor Haskell. I appreciate that. I would like to comment to the comments that Councilmember Rebecca Flynn made. I had no idea that my chair, BPTS chair at Holland, works with Rebecca Flynn on the PV Forum. I am not, well, I used to be on PV Forum and deliberately disconnected me from that social media forum. So I hope you understand. It is so time consuming to analyze and to prepare for a proper comment with documentation to justify comments. So in my busy life, I have refrained from commenting, and I hope, and I have addressed this so many times, this is not a public venue. Everything should be disclosed on the Portola Valley website. So once again, I don't agree with Councilmember Flynn. There's several issues with our PPTS. 'Cause, 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 'c I will address it at another time, but if you read I'm the secretary, if you read the minutes, there's no process. We have failed to follow or abide by the handbook, and there's several issues. It is very concerning when I see your reports. There's not one committee that is collaborating with PPTS. We were supposed to collaborate last year. Town council signed an agreement or an ordinance that any major projects would be consulting, would be approved or not approved, but would be discussed during a joint meeting with conservation, PPDS, and trails and park, but it has not happened. And so I have many concerns. Every time I ask you, the town council, to substantiate the money that is spent on traffic planning, I'm very sincere, because we have not seen any productivity. We have seen other reports from CGAC, which we also pay, and they have a much more updated plan. So we're paying so many agencies for the same result, and nobody has committed to results. CGAC is I will not go there. This is not the topic of the tonight, but no, I don't appreciate what Councilmember Flynn said, and I would like to open this for discussion.
Carolyn, we can't discuss it tonight. We're just taking public comments. So we'll note your comments and follow up separately.
Thank you.
All right. The next item on our agenda is the fiscal year 2024-25 GAN appropriations limit. So we're being requested to adopt a resolution establishing the GAN limit of $5,280,144. So Tony, are you going to go over that as well?
Yes.
Okay, over to you.
All right, thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, so this is an annual adoption required by the California Constitution. It's pretty much an administerial action. But just some background, last year, former town manager went through the process of actually recalculating our appropriation limit from the base year of, I believe it was 1986. And because I believe at the time we were flirting with the appropriation limit itself. Basically the recalculation was to make sure that we identified the factors that gave us the maximum increase each year. So the limit was actually reset last year from 4.2 to 4.9 million. And then that was used for the 22-23 GAN limit. So we're resetting the 24-25 GAN limit using the recalculated number from the previous year. So yeah, it went from 4.2 million to 4.9 million. And last year's appropriation limit was 5.1 million. There are 4 factors that can be considered. One is the percent change in per capita personal income. One is the percent change in non-residential new construction. 3 is the percent change of the population of the town, with 4 the percent change in population of county. And we can choose one of these 4 factors each year. We don't have to be consistent with each factor. We want to use the factors that give us, like I said, the greatest flexibility in increasing the appropriation limit. So for 24-25, the price factor, the change in per capita income was 3.62. And that's provided by the California Department of Finance, which is included in your packet. The change in non-residential new construction, that comes from the county assessor's office. Our consultant, Paula, from Horn and Cone, she can actually get that number for us. The population factor, again, these are numbers provided by the Department of Finance. The change in population for the town is 0.79%. And the change in population for San Mateo County was 0.40. So of the four factors, the two that provided the most favorable result was the change in per capita income of 3.62 and the change in county population of 0.40. This created a combined adjustment factor of 1.032. And we use that number and multiply it to last year's appropriation limit to get the new appropriation limit of 5.28 million. Included in your report is the worksheets that I used to calculate the GAN limit and also the Department of Finance letters that were provided. This item probably should have been included when we did the revised budget in November. But so the 25-26 GAN limit will be adopted when we adopt the 25-26 budget. With that concludes my report. Give it back to council.
Thank you. All right, first we go to town council questions. So I'll start with Rebecca.
Just a really quick background type of question. Why was the proposition passed in 1979? What was the concern?
Well, it was coming out of Prop 13. And there was concern about, because Prop 13 slashed revenues for towns, and so they had to make serious adjustments. So the GAN limit was implemented to keep the using appropriations under control. With Proposition 4 was passed by the voters. There was Proposition 13, Proposition 8, Proposition
Okay.
all in sequence.
Okay, thank you. I don't have any other questions.
Okay, Mary.
No, I'm okay.
All right, Craig.
I'm good, thank you.
All right, Helen.
This is, at some point with our population continuing to go down and the county's population going down, well, that will potentially decrease overall appropriation.
Well, the largest factor is the change in per capita income. So if that goes down, then yes, that will result in a negative factor.
Curious. Thank you. That's all.
Okay. I don't have any questions at this point. We'll go to public comment. And
No hands are up in the schoolhouse.
thank you. And Dale Fow is the first hand up.
Yes, thank you. Quick question, looking at, we're actually in overall percentage fairly close to our GAN limit this year. Have you done a analysis to show that with the ever increasing cost of our sheriff's contract, even if we hold other spending steady, is it possible we could exceed the GAN limit in the next couple of years? Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Dale.
I can answer that question.
Okay.
What impacted us for this particular and why that number is close is that we deferred capital projects. Capital projects can be excluded from the calculation. So by not having capital projects in the budget, like we had beginning the proposed budget, that did impact the GAN limit calculation.
Okay. All right, I see no other hands up, so we can bring it back for any discussion. Helen, do we want to start with you, please?
I'm good, thank you.
All right, Craig?
So I'd follow up on Dale's question. I think it was sort of a two-part question, which is, one, why were we close? But then with increasing costs that are out of our control with the sheriff's contract, for instance, are we in danger over the next, say, 4 years of exceeding our GAN limit? Or do you have a sense? And I'm not looking for an exact answer here, but is this something that we need to look at carefully when we're budgeting? Or is it likely that those numbers always sort of increase faster than the stuff that's sort of built in from the other contracts that we have?
Well, we've had significant cost increases in the sheriff's contract over the last 4 to 5 years that have also been included in this GAN limit calculation. what would concern me is if the CPI goes to negative.
Okay,
That would be, because then that automatically makes the limit go down.
right. And even though the sheriff's contract's not going to go down because the CPI went down.
Yeah, that's
Right.
true, but the cost increases in the sheriff's contract over the last 3 to 4 years are baked into this appropriation limit calculation.
Right.
So unless there's another large increase like we had 3 or 4 years ago, then yeah, that would be a concern.
Okay.
But the biggest concern for me is the change in CPI. If that's a negative,
Right.
then that's going to seriously impact, or that will have the biggest impact on the appropriation limit calculation.
But the sheriff contract has automatic increases in it.
It
based
is,
on
but
CPI and some other stuff.
right, but there was a small increment increase this year.
Okay.
And depending on the outcome next month.
Thanks.
Okay,
Actually, I do
Mary?
have a question.
I understand. I'm fine.
Okay, so back to Helen and then to Rebecca.
Sorry. Remind me, if we do go, if the CPI were to go down and our costs continue to go up, and so we go over the GAN limit, just remind me of the consequences.
We have 1 year. There's a 1 year grace period. But if we exceed it for 2 years, then we would have to return to get back under the
Return to,
taxpayer.
thank you.
Okay. And Rebecca?
No, I'm fine.
Okay. And as am I, this is an interesting exercise to do, and I think the documentation that I've reviewed seems to support the conclusion. So with that, I think we need a motion to approve.
So I move that we approve resolution 2962-2025.
And I second it.
Okay, may we have a roll call vote?
Councilmember Flynn,
Aye.
Councilmember Hefty,
Aye.
Councilmember Walter,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Taylor,
Aye.
and Mayor Haskell.
Aye.
Motion carried.
All right. Now, so for the subcommittee and liaison reports, unless people have further context that they feel they need to bring with respect to written submissions, I'd like to focus on anything that is not been written. So does anybody have anything to report that is not the subject of a written report?
Yeah, I have 2 meetings that I had this week and late last week. One was with PCE, Peninsula Clean Energy. Their CEO and their Director of Public Affairs came out to meet with myself and Councilmember Flynn, just to introduce themselves, sort of explain, what they are. And I've been the alternate director for the last year when Jeff was on, and I'm now the primary director. So it was a great meeting, and we're lucky to have PCE. It's a really great organization, and I think it does great things for the town. One thing, and Tony's aware of this, they do have some money for jurisdictions, and right now they have earmarked like $64,000 for Portola Valley that we might potentially be able to use to put in a heat pump or something else. So not something we have to deal with now, but just something to be aware of. Is there's some money on the table. So when we go into our priorities session, I think that would be part of that discussion. So that's the first meeting. And then the second meeting was, I met with Cal Water today. So the director for Bear Gulch was here, and their director for public affairs came over and met me at town hall. And again, a lot of it was sort of meet and greet, but they have agreed that they're willing to come out and do a, public meeting, sort of a town hall. We can either do it through a council meeting, under the council meeting umbrella, or we can have it as a separate meeting, but they were very open to that. They're also willing to entertain some emergency service equipment, things like that at their tanks. There's some CPUC requirements that we'd have to go through, but again, they were open to it. So it was a really good discussion, and I look forward to having them come out and speak with the public. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Helen, I saw your hand up.
Yep, thank you. I had, so a couple things, the PCE GovBE money, Half Moon Bay is used it for new HVAC equipment. So it's very easy and I'm happy to help staff, to get, it's incredibly easy for that 64,000. Like I was surprised how easy it was. So, that was the first thing. The second thing is, on the SFO report, Congressman Mullen should have a staff member attend the meetings. For folks that don't know, Kevin Mullen has been in the hospital with an infected knee, surgery. Third, I did attend a CCAG meeting. I'm really bummed. Councilmember Hefty and I were both appointed to the body, and Councilmember Hefty stepped out. So I'm now on the CCAG Resource Management and Conservation Committee, and we met. They had the director from Bosca, who is this water supplier, and I'm grateful that you already met with Cal Water, because I talked to them about, like, who do we talk to at Cal Water to ask about emergency? So, and also for those of us on CCAG, Ken Springer is retiring. So that's my
Okay.
report.
And just
Thank
to
you.
clarify, Mary, you're still on the CCAG board?
I am.
Oh, you're on the board. Okay, so, and you're on the conservation. Right. Okay,
Yeah.
good. Thank you.
Well, I
Okay.
thought, I mean, do I need to explain that?
No, no, that's good. I was just trying to make sure everybody understood that there's the executive board, and then there are a bunch of subcommittees under CCAG. So thank you.
Okay, Mary, do you have anything?
Well, I was watching the MROSD, the Hawthorne's discussion today at MROSD, which they've gotten through the trail and the parking by the time this meeting started. And they're going to be, they're having two, it looks like we're going to actually make some progress on this. There are going to be two meetings, and then their decision will be made as far as the location of the trail and the parking. It looked like the staff had offered to make a slightly lower trail that goes closer to Spring Ridge Trail onto the border trail in the ranch, but doesn't join it as their interim solution to the trail problems. And they're very heavily headed towards 10 for their parking.
The site number 10.
Site
Right.
number 10, yeah, which
Okay.
and they did discuss the four-way stop sign and whether we were going to be able to handle that in a safe fashion.
Okay. Thank
I'm
you.
sorry, where is site 10? At
Site
Hawthorne?
10 is right across from the parking lot at the hardware store. So it's just going to be a one big parking lot. And a four-way stop sign. But it's not done yet. They're still taking comments, and they're still in discussion. It just seems to be quite a bit safer.
And
Okay.
was there any discussion on the number of cars? Is it still 50? I mean, it's
Yes.
a crazy number. Okay.
Actually, I think what they're planning on doing is 2 stages. They're going to do a lesser number, and then if it fills up, they're going to do more. That's what it's looking like. Again, we're still a whole meeting away from making decisions.
Great.
As long as we're talking parking, I talked to town manager Linder about this. And I do feel that we are becoming a, recreational destination, and our parking, we need a comprehensive parking plan. And it's unfortunate that Hawthorne's is making this 50, that's an enormous parking lot. And without, we don't have a comprehensive parking strategy that would take into account the mid-pin parking, the Alpine Inn, the Zots Field, right? So I wanted to bring that up, because without parking management to encourage people to mode shift and use other alternative sources. We don't have the tax base to create shuttles. But there are incentives you can do, and to ask Mid-Penn, for instance, to use some incentives to, what are they doing instead of just building parking to incentivize people to carpool, for instance, or things like that. So, thank you.
Yeah. All right. All right, Rebecca, do you have
Very good.
anything?
I do. I attended Conservation Committee meeting last night and I'm going to submit written comments just so that it's for the next.
Okay.
But I just wanted to quickly say that Sunday is the broom pull that's scheduled, and the committee is hoping many people in town will show up, rain or shine. They'll provide all the tools, and you just meet at town center, and you'll be assigned to a location to work. And then they'll be co-sponsoring a lecture about the mountain lions that were rescued with the Westridge Garden Club, and I believe it's scheduled for March 20th, but I'm not 100% sure.
That's correct.
Yeah, March 20th. And then they have issued a new PV plant list that they've revised the icons to indicate fire hazard level for the plants. So if people are planning on planting, they would do well to look at the new list, which will be on the website. And then I attended, I issued written comments for the Emergency Services Council meeting. Everybody here has it, and it'll be included in the next meeting packet, but I just want to draw attention to a couple of things. They've requested comments, stakeholder input on their county emergency services strategic plan by April 1st. I sent the link out to the PV forum if residents would like to comment on that. And then
Rebecca,
yes.
Rebecca, a quick question. Can you also forward that to staff so it can be posted
Yes.
as well?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. And then they are moving ahead with something called the All Hazards Evacuation Plan, and they will be asking every city to work on that. And that will involve the Ladris software that they will be providing us, which we also already have. So that'll be rolling out in the next month or so with orientation meetings. So that was that one. And then the third report was CCAG, the governing board. And again, I'm going to submit written comments so that you have the full thing, but I just want to touch on a couple things. There's a vacancy on the Congestion Management and Environmental Quality Committee for council members, in case any of you are eager to add more to your plates. And then I just wanted people to be aware that they do have something called the Congestion Management Program Technical Advisory Committee. This board is so full of acronyms, I had to actually search for them on the computer to learn about all the acronyms they use. But anyway, I just wanted to draw attention that Portola Valley does not have representation on that committee because we do not have a permanent public works or town engineer or a planning person that's available to attend. I would say this is not a huge priority for Portola Valley, but I just wanted people to be aware, the town is aware of this already. Just that we don't have representation because it's not that important right now for Portola Valley. And then I think that was the other thing, they gave us a legislation update. There's a regional transportation measure that's being considered from the MTC and ABAG. And CCAG has submitted some comments about that to make sure that to limit the impact on local funding sources. And finally, there was a discussion on federal funding risks due to two factors: the organizational disarray in Washington, D.C. currently, and then just the basic risk to funding projects in California. So they are quite concerned about that. The county has 7 transportation, stormwater, green infrastructure, and water quality projects that are awaiting funding, and they are evaluated now with a low to a high risk assessment for funding loss. And the total is $42 million worth of projects. So we're keeping our fingers crossed that the money will come through for those critical projects. That's it for me.
Okay. Thank you very much. I will ask the public if it has any comments on the reports that they heard. Christy C is the first hand up.
Yes, I was listening to the MROSD presentation on Hawthorns tonight. Unfortunately, their meetings are at 7 PM for the board, and our meetings are at 7 PM. So I'm asking the board if you could have this discussion so we can do the Hawthorns vote, possibly 6 to 7, 5 to 7, or whatever. I think 6 to 7 would be suffice, and 312 is the vote on the Hawthorns number 10 and the alternative trails. And if you're like me, I want to know and attend both meetings. So anything that town council and Mr. Linder could do to help us attend 2 meetings at once is almost impossible, and we want to have access to both meetings. Planning Commission, Town Council, and MROSD. Thank you.
Thank you, Christy. 7562, you're next.
Great. Good evening, Caroline Bush-Dongan. Thank you very much, Mayor Haskell, for emphasizing that PV Forum is a social media platform. It's not the official platform. So we would like to encourage them to publicize everything that they publicize on their website to do on the public website. Thank you very much. I concur with Christy. It's very difficult to attend both meetings, and we had several very important meetings in the last year. You know, we're trying our best, but it's not possible. So I hope the interim manager will realize that. Our handbook is very specific. Residents rule this town, we pay the taxes. We would like to work with staff and with town council members, but that's the priority. And there has to be change. If you read the minutes of PPDS, it's a disarray. We don't have a process. We have continuous worked on public safety and traffic and reducing speed for what, since 2017, and nothing gets done. We would like to have a streamlined process, and hopefully this interim manager will be successful in achieving those goals. So thank you very much.
Thank you. And Patty D, you're next.
Hi, I'll try and end us on a fun note. I apologize if this was talked about at the beginning of the meeting. I was also on the mid-pen, but on Saturday night, March 8th, the Parks and Rec Department is hosting a music trivia night at the community hall. Our general trivia nights have been a huge success, and we've already got a great interest in this. If you don't think you know anything about music trivia, you're wrong. You do. And even if you don't, it'll be a ton of fun. It's a BYOB. We are not spending any of the town's money, and we're going to have a lot of fun. So I encourage everybody to come out Saturday night, March 8th. Please sign up. Registration has been posted on the PV Forum. It's also on the town website. Hope to see you there. Thanks.
Thank you, Patty. That is a good note to end on. And, you know, normally I attend these things and they are great fun, but my ability on music trivia is appalling. So I probably will do people no favors by joining their team. All right. I'm not seeing any other hands, and I assume no one in the schoolhouse has hands up.
No hands in the schoolhouse.
Okay, I think we are ready to adjourn. Motion to adjourn, please.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay. Do we need a roll call, Renee, for that since I'm
Yeah.
remote?
Yeah, because you're remote.
Mayor, certainly one wouldn't hurt.
Okay, we'll do a roll call.
You're so good at it too.
Councilmember Flynn,
Aye.
Councilmember Hefty,
Aye.
Councilmember Walter. Aye. Vice Mayor Taylor,
Aye.
Mayor Haskell.
Aye. All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, everybody.
Take care. Bye.